Pocket FM.
To unlock all the episodes, click the link in bio.
Something wrong?
You're so shameless. You've had this suit for years. You thought it was acceptable to wear it to an event like this?
I think those things just don't matter when you're like who you are inside.
I hope they don't see me getting out of the car with you. Counterfire or something.
If only Sarah knew the true extent of Chris's wealth, and that all of this is Chris's vicious plan of revenge.
Honestly, I don't understand why even keep him around. Isn't intimacy even that good?
Chris is like a limp noodle when it comes to that. It's honestly pathetic.
Chris couldn't go on living like this, especially now knowing that Sarah had terminated her pregnancy on purpose. Something had to change.
I have to get this deal, Lily. Otherwise, Smith & Legal is down for.
It's not your fault. Your company lost $8 million. What about a party tonight? You can ask Global Entertainment for more cash.
Global Entertainment?
Global Entertainment, aka the company that Chris was fired from, the reason for the personal hell he was living in.
You can't be serious. They're seconds away from bankruptcy.
They're the biggest entertainment conglomerate in LA. Have you tried talking with Oliver? I'm sure he'd be more than happy to help you.
It's actually a good idea. He's the hottest stockbroker in town.
A new business partner and a new lover.
The hell does you want?
Mr. Boris was Chris's former boss and mentor at Global Entertainment before Mr. Boris fired him for no reason.
How dare you call me? You have a lot of nerve.
Young, you're a billionaire.
Is this some kind of prank?
I don't joke about money. I'll explain everything now. Global Entertainment now.
Where could you possibly be going?
Oh, last minute work thing.
Oh, well, don't forget about the party tonight. I'd like you to try and look nice. For a change.
Eating his coffee.
I don't know.
Thanks for coming down, Chris.
What's the meaning of all this? Is this some kind of sick joke, Mr. Boris? Is this way to tease ex-employees you fired?
This is no joke, Chris. Take a seat. I'm the new owner of Global Entertainment, and it's my job to stop this company drowning in debt.
I don't see what it has to do with me and how it makes me a billionaire.
3 years ago, the board of directors forced me to fire you. Just before you left, you purchased some stocks for us. You may recall.
Of course I do. It was my last bit of money I used for those. Everyone told me I was an idiot, but I didn't believe them. I knew there were good investments.
You're right. Go ahead. 3 years later, all of them have more than quadrupled in value.
I got this company multiple billion-dollar stocks.
Bingo. I need a smart financial brain to help save this business. Christopher, will you be the new president of Global Entertainment?
Just that morning, Chris felt like a loser with a hateful wife who was ready to leave him because he was too poor. But if he accepted this job, he'd be leading LA's most powerful entertainment conglomerate. And now Chris could have his revenge on his toxic, abusive wife.
I'll accept it.
Welcome to the company, Mr. President.
But I hope you understand. I do have my conditions.
Any conditions, I accept.
First, I need a secretary to write everything down.
Good afternoon, boss.
Come and meet Monica, your new secretary.
Chris couldn't believe that this was his new secretary.
It's an honor to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you, Monica.
Well, I presume this will do.
I have to get this deal, Lily. Otherwise, Miss Legal is down for.
Yeah. One more thing. I want to buy an $8 million share of my wife's company, Smiths and Legal. And I'd like the purchase to be completed by the end of the day.
Chris, you haven't even analyzed our current holdings.
Mr. Boris, it seems like Mr. Young knows a good investment when he sees it. Yeah. You want to make some deals in secret, hmm?
Well, well, well. Just one thing. Don't make me regret hiring you. Okay?
Monica, get me the number to the Victoria auction house, will you?
Yes, Mr. President.
By the way, I'm glad to have you on board. We're definitely gonna have some fun together.
Mhm.
Something wrong?
You're so shameless. You've had the suit for years. You thought it was acceptable to wear it to an event like this?
I think those things just don't matter when you're like who you are inside.
I hope they don't see me getting out of the car with you. Counterfire or something.
If only Sarah knew the true extent of Chris's wealth, and that all of this is Chris's vicious plan of revenge. Chris was underdressed on purpose. He wanted to punish those posh bastards who cared only about money, most notably Oliver Samuel. Everyone knew him as one of LA's most coveted, eligible bachelors and a successful private investor. But Chris just knew him as the guy who'd been after his wife for years.
I'll be back in a second. Hey, aren't you Sarah's husband? Well, a little hard to tell considering how much poorer you look than her. I'm messing around with you, dude. But listen, I know a good suit can cost a fortune these days. If you ever need a nice one for parties like this, I can lend you one of my own ones.
Typically, Chris would let something like this slide, but this new version of Chris had enough. It was time for the game to begin.
Get your hands off me, Oliver.
What? Get your hands off me!
If you don't wanna be gathering your teeth from this fancy carpet.
Grace, don't speak to him that way. I'm so sorry. He's probably just had a bit too much to drink.
Don't worry, sweet thing. He's no threat to me.
Oh, please. I hope this won't affect our upcoming deal.
Deal? What deal?
Of course not. Fully intend of purchasing stocks from Smithson Legal. $8 million worth, in fact. Nice luxury I can afford, Harpers.
What did you think?
Oliver thought he could buy Sarah's affections.
Speaking of luxury, to celebrate our deal, I got you a little something. I know you wanted the red diamond necklace from Victoria's auction house, but apparently someone else bought it. So I got you this set instead. It's actually far rare and more valuable anyways.
But little did Oliver know. Now, so could Chris.
Oh my God, Oliver? For me?
Anytime, my dear. This necklace was handmade by a craftsman in Italy.
Oh, really? What's the name of the craftsman?
Excuse me, loser?
I asked you. Who made this necklace?
Like you know any high-end jewelry designer? Why do you ask?
Maybe I'd like to buy from him.
Don't make me laugh. I don't think they make anything within your budget, Chris.
So, if you don't remember the name of the craftsman, how can you prove it's a genuine piece?
As if you know the first thing about rare diamonds. Can't even hardly dress yourself. What the?
Chris, the hell is wrong with you?
It's a fake! And a cheap fake! No genuine diamond would break that easily.
The hell do you think you're talking to?
No one important, clearly. Take your worthless crap. Sarah deserves a real thing.
Finally, Chris was getting his wife's attention.
Chris. How did you afford this? Chris Young, president of Global Entertainment. Wait, what? You're the new president of Global Entertainment?
Indeed, I am.
But how?
A very, very good investor. Never take it off. Could you do that, Mrs. Young? Take you home.
What exactly did Chris have planned for Sarah at home? Is it a vicious revenge? To hurt her as much as she did to him? Like a moth to a flame, Sarah flew into Chris's trap.
Who's Monica? And why is she texting you so late?
No one. It's just a work thing.
Do you think I'm stupid?
What I do know is that it's stupid to waste your energy worrying about a work tax or draping yourself all over a man like Oliver. But you know that, Sarah.
Take me.
Sarah was surprised at how quickly she'd gotten pregnant. This was the first time that she and Chris had made love in months. But suddenly, she realized that it was not Chris's baby.
Sarah, are you in there?
Yeah. One sec.
Look at this brand new man.
This is new.
There's a lot of new things around here these days. I'm feeling pancakes. What about you?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll just be in a sec.
Sarah realized that new opportunities were opening up for her.
So, Chris, you wanted to become a father?
But her plan was nothing compared to the hell that Chris had planned to unleash upon Sarah. And what will Chris do when he finds out that the baby's real father is Oliver?
In the weeks that followed Chris's dramatic rise to power, life had taken on a new rhythm. The man who once cowered before his wife's cruel words now commanded boardrooms and made million-dollar deals with the stroke of a pen. But success, as Chris would soon learn, came with its own complications. Sarah, drawn to his newfound confidence and wealth, had begun to see her husband in a different light. The toxic dynamic that once defined their marriage was shifting, replaced by something more complex. Tonight, at Madame Smithson's birthday celebration, Chris would discover that his carefully orchestrated plans were about to take an unexpected turn. For while he had been focused on building his empire and plotting his revenge, darker forces had been watching and waiting. The game was far from over.
Sarah watched Chris's friend zoom down the city street. He never drove that fast. Boy, he really has changed. I used to yell at him for driving too slow, and now he has the confidence of a race car driver. Sarah's thoughts were interrupted by the doorbell. She turned her attention away from the window and toward the door. Inside strode Saul Freeman, the owner of the Regency Hotel and the Muse Bar. Everyone was puzzled. Of course, Madame Smithson and all the guests know who Saul Friedman was. He was an established hotelier in the city and traveled in the same circles as the Smithsons. Madame Smithson stood up. Saul, welcome. After what happened at Madame's banquet at the Regency Hotel the other night, when James insisted on buying the most expensive wine at the hotel but didn't have the means to pay for it, Madame Smithson assumed Saul wanted nothing to do with her or her family. Madame Smithson looked Saul up and down. What could he be doing here? I didn't invite him. He was acting strange at the banquet that Chris stepped in to pay for the wine. It's as if he knew Chris. Saul looked up to Madame Smithson. I hear this is a birthday dinner? Why, yes, Saul. How kind of you to come. I'm actually here to see Chris. His secretary Monica said he'd be here. This sent shockwaves through the dinner party. He was there for Chris? Madame Smithson cleared her throat. Chris has left my dinner early. Well, that's all right. He's a busy man, I know. Madame didn't like how Saul was defending Chris's behavior, but she also didn't want to upset Saul. He could be an important business associate for the Smithson family in the future. Smithson Holdings was very interested in the hotel business, and Saul owned the finest hotels all over the world. Madame Smithson put on a fake smile, showing her veneers. He certainly is a busy bee. Saul placed his hand in the pocket of his sports jacket and pulled out a small, delicate box. Do not worry, madam. I do have a birthday gift for you. He presented the box to Madame Smithson, who opened it. It was the same diamond bracelet James gave her. Saul pointed to it. This is a diamond bracelet a countess had especially made for her, and now it's yours. James's eyes went wide. Madame was shocked. That's impossible. My grandson James gave me this bracelet. This must be a replica. Saul was offended. Of course it's not. If you don't believe me, let's test both bracelets underwater. If you can see a rainbow of colors run through the diamonds, it's real. The guests were enthralled. They wanted to see the diamonds tested. Saul took both bracelets and set them down on the table. Then he poured water from a crystal pitcher onto the bracelets. Indeed, the diamonds in Saul's bracelet displayed a brilliant rainbow. James's bracelets did not. James's face reddened. He turned away from his grandmother in shame, snatching up the bracelet as he did. Madame Smithson was furious. My own grandson tried to deceive me. But before she could reprimand him, a stranger arrived at the party. He was an older man, perhaps in his 80s, but his eyes shone bright and clearly still had a lot of spark left in them. Excuse me, my name is Roger Callahan. The door was open. I was told Chris would be here. Immediately, Eleanor recognized him by his name. Callahan? As in Callahan Construction. Yes, ma'am. Eleanor gestured to him. Well, Chris isn't here, but please take a seat. This is my mother's birthday party. Join us for a drink. Eleanor signaled to Sarah to stand up from her seat and offer it to Roger. Sarah did as she was told. Please, take a seat, and let me get you that drink. I'll take that drink, but no need for a seat. I prefer the stand. I'll have a whiskey neat. Sarah walked over to the bar and poured Roger a drink. She handed it to Roger, who smiled at her.
Thank you, honey.
Even though she hated it when men called her names, she found it endearing that Roger called her honey. It seemed like a sweet old grandpa to her. Roger looked around the room.
Who's the birthday girl?
Madam Smithson stepped forward. She knew of Roger, but didn't realize he was such a handsome old gentleman.
That would be me.
Roger and Madam Smithson locked eyes. Roger noted Madam's elegant silk gown and her perfectly coiffed hair.
And how is it that Mr. Young came to host your birthday party?
Madam Smithson wanted to say that Chris had nothing to do with hosting and that he was sucking on the blood of the Smithson family. But instead, she smiled coyly.
Chris is my grandson-in-law, and my family, Smithson Holdings, is now doing business with him.
This greatly impressed Roger. Anyone doing business with Chris Young was a smart cookie in his estimation.
Well, if that's the case, I'd love to present you with a gift. Chris is a good friend to me, and by extension, you are now a friend.
He handed Madame a photograph of a beautiful old villa brimming with ivy.
This is a villa I own in Tuscany. It's now yours.
Sarah, Eleanor, and Alexander even gasped. A villa in Tuscany? This was certainly the most extravagant gift yet. Everyone huddled around Madam Smithson to take a better look at the photo. After a few more drinks, everyone was in high spirits. Roger was entertaining the Smithson family and their guests with tales of his travels. Saul, who was also well-traveled, chimed in too once in a while. Roger raised his glass in the air.
Speaking of all this travel, I think it's only fair Madam Smithson hosts her next birthday at the villa in Tuscany and invites us all.
Saul raised his glass too.
Hear, hear. Couldn't agree more with you, Roger.
Madam Smithson beamed. 2 distinguished men wanted to attend her birthday party next year. How exciting. It almost made up for the fact that her grandson James had lied to her. Almost. She looked at him in the corner of the room, scowling. Madam Smithson walked over to him.
Would you care to explain why you bought me a fake diamond bracelet?
James,
it was an honest mistake, I swear. First you buy wine you can't afford, now this? I thought you were financially solvent. How are you supposed to be a top man at Smithson Holdings if you can't even keep your personal accounts in check?
James murmured under his breath.
Well, my accounts would be fine if you didn't always demand lavish gifts. What's that? I said I'll try harder next time to get you a better gift.
Madam Smithson patted James on the head.
That's my boy.
Meanwhile, Sarah looked around the room and couldn't help but miss Chris. She decided to text him about Roger and his gift. Roger Callahan came to see you tonight, and he gifted grandmother a villa in Italy. But Chris couldn't reply. He was too busy organizing documents for the big audit. Sarah kept looking at her phone all night, but there was no new message from Chris. Oliver noticed this. He put his hand on top of Sarah's phone.
Why don't you enjoy yourself in the moment? Your grandma is only around for so long. You should be with your family and not worrying about Chris right now.
Sarah nodded. It's true she should be enjoying her family, but her thoughts wandered to Chris easily. Oliver leaned into her.
Why don't you and your mom step out in the hall with me? I have a present for both of you, but I don't want to give it to you in front of your grandmother. It would be rude.
Sarah was curious what Oliver had purchased. She knew Chris called Oliver out for buying her a fake necklace, but if it's the thought that counts, Oliver was indeed very thoughtful. And now that he was officially courting her, Sarah assumed whatever gift he was about to give Eleanor and her would be extravagant. She went to find her mother, who immediately lit up when she heard Oliver had a present for her.
He's such a considerate man, see? Chris didn't have gifts for us, but Oliver did. Take note.
Eleanor and Sarah followed Oliver out into the hallway of the building. Oliver started to feel around in his pocket.
It's here somewhere.
Eleanor giggled. If it's so small it can fit in your pocket, it must be jewelry. Suddenly, Oliver ripped out a cloth dipped in chloroform and placed it over Eleanor's mouth. She hit the ground in an instant. Sarah looked at her unconscious mother on the floor, but she was too shocked to move. Oliver then lunged for Sarah with the cloth. Sarah's eyes rolled into the back of her head and she fainted into Oliver's arms. He gently guided her to the floor.
Sleep tight, my dear.
When Sarah came to consciousness, she was seated on a chair in the middle of a sparse living room. It took her a minute to adjust her eyes, but when she did, she realized she was in Oliver's apartment. She tried to stand up, but couldn't. Sarah was tied down to a chair. She turned her head and saw her mother, still unconscious, also tied to the back of a chair. What the hell is happening? Mom? Mom? Are you okay? Eleanor didn't respond. Oliver strolled in. I see you're finally awake, sweetheart. Sweetheart? Why am I tied up in your living room, Oliver? Once your mother wakes up, I'll explain everything. Sarah turned her head toward her mother again. Mother? Mother, wake up! Sarah turned back to Oliver. What did you do to us? Is she gonna be okay? It was simply, she'll be fine. I'm sure she'll wake up any minute. Just then, Eleanor stirred. She opened her eyes. Sarah, where are we? Is this the present? Oh my god, Mother! I can't believe that's the first thing you thought about! Oliver laughed. Of course it is. That's all you Smiths and women care about. And yes, Eleanor, this is a present. But not for you. It's a present for me. When Eleanor realized the situation, she tried to raise her hand to Oliver, but realized her arms were bound. What the going on? You kidnapped us! I demand to know why! Oliver stood in front of Eleanor. He was a tall man, and at this moment, he seemed even taller, looming over Eleanor tied up in her seat. Eleanor, you have a lot of demands, don't you? You wanted me to come to Madame Smithson's birthday tonight knowing it would be the perfect time to tell everyone my intent to win Sarah's heart. But you didn't foresee Chris. Stupid Chris and all his new money and power. Vying for her affection. Now I'm supposed to compete with that man? I've had enough. Sarah interjected. What do you want, Oliver? Just tell us and let us go. What I want is my deal back. Your husband canceled my contract just like that. And now I'm essentially broke. And I know you would never marry a broke man. I know how important wealth and status are to you. Sarah looked into Oliver's eyes. They were tearing up. Sarah didn't know what to say. In a way, she almost felt bad for Oliver. Meanwhile, back at Madame Smithson's birthday dinner, no one seemed to notice that Oliver, Sarah, and Eleanor were gone. They were all having too much fun drinking champagne, eating lobster, and listening to the jazz band that just arrived and was playing some of Madame Smithson's favorite songs. Madame Smithson stood up to make a speech. Everyone, may I have your attention, please? At that instant, Elizabeth Curry, the founder of Young and Beautiful Cosmetics, walked into the room. Everyone turned to see who it was. There had been so many unexpected guests this evening. Madame Smithson didn't personally know Elizabeth, but she recognized her arresting face from the cover of Forbes magazine. Elizabeth smiled at the group, and everyone nearly melted. Sorry to disturb everyone. I'm Elizabeth Curry. I'm here to see Chris. Madame's eyebrows furrowed. Yet another person here to see Chris. Madame Smithson set her champagne glass down. He's not in, and I'm in the middle of celebrating my birthday, as you can see. Elizabeth bowed her head. Oh, do forgive me. Your birthday? Well, in that case, I want you and all your guests to have my complete line of makeup free of charge. I'm so sorry to have disturbed you. Elizabeth then waved goodbye. Madame Smithson was perplexed. What did Elizabeth Carey have to do with Chris? But before she could give it another thought, two new young strangers arrived at the party. Tom Dash and Lindsay Wright. Tom stepped up to the dinner table. Sorry to interrupt, but I'm Tom Dash, and this is my associate, Lindsay Wright. Madame Smithson requested our presence tonight to discuss an important business investment. Madame Smithson nodded. She had indeed invited these two upstarts over. She had heard their pitch and liked it, but she wanted to see if they could get along with her family, which was even more important. Madam Smithson stood up and shook Tom and Lindsay's hands. Welcome. Please have a drink. Sarah's father, Alexander, saw Tom and Lindsay and was appalled. These two kids came to his mother-in-law's dinner dressed in jeans and baseball caps. You certainly didn't dress for the occasion. Tom looked down at his outfit. I think we look fine. No stains on this t-shirt. Alexander scoffed. This is my competition? I have way better idea to present to Madam Smithson. And as her son-in-law, she will of course listen to my investment idea. Alexander called out to Madam Smithson. May I have a moment of your time? Madam Smithson barely looked at him. Whatever it is, Alexander, you can say it to me in front of my guests. Alexander gritted his teeth. Very well. I have a proposal to invest $50 million into the Hong Kong office. $50 million? On top of what we already sunk in? Yes, Madam Smithson, you won't regret it. Madam Smithson sat down to ponder this. Meanwhile, across the table, James smirked. That's $50 million she'll never see again. But it benefits me if she takes the stupid deal. That way, when Alexander's plan fails, him, Sarah, and Eleanor will finally be out of my way, and I can prove to my grandma I should be chairman. James stood up. I agree with Alexander. You should invest your money into Hong Kong. Madam Smithson looked at her grandson. He did make a fool of himself earlier, but she knew that he had a keen sense for business. Okay, I'll do it. Back at Oliver's apartment, Sarah was desperately trying to talk Oliver into releasing her and her mother. Please, let us go. We won't tell anyone about this. But Oliver was stalwart. You know I can't do that. It's gone too far. Oliver quickly turned around. He clearly wasn't expecting anyone. He walked over to the front door cautiously. Who is it? A voice on the other end answered. Delivery. Oliver realized that he had ordered cheap tableware to prepare a romantic dinner for Sarah this week. He thought he could at least make the dinner look nice, even if they weren't the most expensive plates. He sighed a breath of relief. Just leave it at the door. Suddenly, Sarah began to yell, Help! Help! Help us! The delivery man paused before speaking. Everything okay in there? Oliver was quick to respond. Just watching a movie. Please leave the package at the door. Okay. Sounds good, dude. With that, the delivery man left. One more word out of you, and I'll... You. Eleanor's eyes widened in fear. Please, don't hurt my daughter. Shut up, you woman! Sarah took the opportunity to reach behind into her mother's pocket and press the emergency button on her cell phone. She was secretly calling 911. Sarah spoke loudly. Mom, are you okay? Sarah kept talking. Well, if you're not quiet like Oliver said, we'll never be released from his apartment here on Grant Street. Oliver's eyes knitted in suspicion. Why are you talking like that? He looked around Sarah and spotted the phone in her hand. His face turned red with anger, and he snatched it and hung up the call. How dare you? Sarah, terrified, began to cry. Meanwhile, at the party, Alexander finally noticed Eleanor and Sarah were gone. Where is my wife and daughter? Just then, he received a phone call from Chris. Alexander, I want you to remain calm. I just heard from the police that Oliver is holding Eleanor and Sarah hostage at his apartment. Alexander immediately stood up and went to the other room. What? We have to get down there right away! Alexander relayed the story to Madam Smithson and the rest of the family. They all rushed out of the party, leaving their guests to nibble on their 6th course of steak tartare. Once they arrived outside Oliver's office, they saw it was blocked off with police cars. Chris was already talking to the police negotiator. You have to let me go in there. It's me he's upset with, not my wife or mother-in-law. The negotiator shook his head. We can't do that, sir. Madam Smithson overheard this exchange. Chris, you absolutely cannot go inside. Let the police do their job. But Alexander weighed in. But it's true. Oliver's deranged and obviously took my wife and daughter to get back at Chris. Maybe Oliver would give them up for Chris. The negotiator considered this. Bad. You are only allowed to go in on a voluntary basis. The police aren't liable for your actions. Chris nodded solemnly. He inhaled deeply, then slowly entered the apartment building. The elevator ride to Oliver's penthouse suite felt like an eternity. When he finally got there, he knocked at the door and announced himself. Oliver, it's me, Chris. I know I'm the one you want. Oliver looked up at the front door. Go away, Chris. First you take away my contract and my livelihood. And now you're trying to take away Sarah too? You ruined my life. Well, maybe I can help you get that contract back. If you give up Eleanor and Sarah. Oliver's ears perked up. If he could get his money, he could at least get his life back on track. Oliver opened the door and shoved Eleanor and Sarah out into the hallway. Then he grabbed Chris and pulled him inside. Eleanor and Sarah made their way onto the street. The police lights blinded them, but they could hear Alexander calling to them. Eleanor! Sarah! My God! I almost thought I lost you two! Alexander hugged them tight. Even Madame Smithson, usually a cold woman, embraced them. What an ordeal! How horrendous! We must take you home right away. Sarah looked back at the building. Oh, what about Chris? Alexander wrapped his arm around Sarah and guided her to his car. The police are here to help. The Smithson family got into the black cars and drove off. Up in Oliver's apartment, Oliver was crying. He was starting to lose it, and the reality of what he had done and the consequences that might follow were sinking in. I took it too far. I'm not sure I can come back from this. But maybe you can fix it. Chris looked deeply into Oliver's eyes. I can help you with the contract, but you need to take responsibility for what you did tonight. Does that mean I have to turn myself over to the police? Chris didn't say anything. He just stared at the broken man in front of him. A red dot was trained on Oliver from the windows. The sunrise cast a warm, orange glow over the quiet street outside Oliver's house. Captain Hank, a seasoned investigator with a keen eye for detail, approached Chris. Hank's posture was rigid, typical for a man who spent his life upholding the law. Chris, still reeling from the events inside the house, turned to face the captain. He leaned against the hood of his car, his eyes heavy with exhaustion. I appreciate your help today, Chris. Your actions were nothing short of heroic. Hank observed Chris's tired demeanor. But I need your statement about the hostage situation. Chris shook his head gently. I'm sorry, Captain. I'm just too tired right now. Can it wait? His voice was soft, almost a whisper, hinting at the mental and emotional fatigue he felt. Hank nodded, understanding the toll such events could take on a person. Of course. Take your time. We can talk when you're ready. As Hank walked away, Chris took out his phone and dialed Monica's number. He watched the sky darken, the stars beginning to twinkle into existence. The ordeal with Oliver was over. It's time for a new beginning. Monica, it's Chris. I need you to start looking for houses near Global Entertainment. We're going to turn Global Entertainment into a top-tier company. The following day, within the opulent walls of the Smithson family manor, Sarah sat by a large window, her gaze lost in the sprawling gardens outside. The recent ordeal with Oliver had shaken her, but her resilience was palpable. I need to be strong, for myself and for the family. Madame Smithson joined her granddaughter, her presence commanding yet comforting. Sarah, dear, we need to discuss our next steps with Global Entertainment. She was businesslike, but caring. Sarah turned, her face reflecting a newfound determination. Yes, grandmother, I agree. We should negotiate with them. It's time we expanded our horizons. Madame Smithson nodded in approval. I've decided to involve Kid LaCruz in a variety show sponsored by Global Entertainment. It could be a significant boost for us, and it'll be the perfect distraction for you to focus your attention on. Sarah's eyes lit up at the mention of Kid LaCruz. That sounds like a great idea. In the bustling heart of Global Entertainment's offices, Chris and Monica sat in a conference room, surrounded by screens displaying various market analytics and performance charts. The room was abuzz with the energy of newfound opportunities and challenges. Chris leaned forward, his eyes scanning the data with a keen analytical gaze. We've got a solid opportunity with Kid LaCruz. The Star Search variety should be our golden ticket. Chris pointed to a graph showing a spike in viewer ratings every time Kid LaCruz appeared on screen. Monica nodded, her fingers tapping on her laptop as she cross-referenced data. Absolutely, Chris. Kid's popularity is off the charts. If we get him on board, our advertising fees could skyrocket. I've already started crunching the numbers. Chris smiled slightly, his mind racing with possibilities. Good. Let's not just aim for success, let's break records. I want global entertainment to be the name on everyone's lips. Monica looked up, her expression mirroring Chris's determination. I'm on it. But there's more. Monica shifted in her seat. Our operational audit revealed several inefficiencies, especially in our marketing and talent management departments. Details. Chris's focus was unwavering. Monica continued. We're spread too thin, and there's a lack of communication between teams. I propose a restructuring. It's time we streamline our operations for maximum efficiency. Chris leaned back, contemplating the proposal. Do it. We need to be lean and agile if we're going to dominate the market. I trust your judgment, Monica. Monica's eyes sparkled with resolve. You won't regret this. I'll oversee the restructuring personally. We're not just fixing problems, we're setting a new standard. Sarah walked into the resplendent showroom with an air of elegance that was slightly marred by her evident discomfort. Every surface of the space gleamed, and every car sparkled. Beside her, Shane Howell, in his impeccably tailored suit, moved with a confidence befitting his role as a regional manager of... Settling into the plush seats of the dealer's private office, Sarah glanced around, her unease growing in the face of the staff's fawning attention. They really do go out of their way for you here, Shane. Shane, basking in the adulation, smiled. Well, when you're a regular client and a regional manager, you tend to get special treatment. It's all about the relationship, Sarah. Their conversation was interrupted as Chris walked in. The receptionist at the door eyed him with a barely concealed disdain, assessing his casual attire. Jeans and a crummy t-shirt. Chris noticed, but made his way to the office. Sarah, noticing Chris, quickly averted her gaze, her expression a mix of surprise and discomfort. Shane's voice dripped with condescension. We weren't expecting anyone else. Can we help you with something, Chris? Chris maintained his composure and responded evenly. I'm just here to look at some cars. Seems you're receiving excellent service here. I was just discussing a potential collaboration with your company. It's a small world, isn't it? Chris nodded politely. Sure is. Shane leaned closer, his voice laced with condescension. Good to see global entertainment expanding its horizons. You know, in business, it's all about connections and financial power. Something I'm sure a man of your caliber might find challenging to understand. Sarah frowned, her voice barely above a whisper. Shane, that's uncalled for. What? Thought you felt the same way about him. Shane whispered back and turned to the staff, waving his hand dismissively at Chris. Would you kindly assist this gentleman outside? We wouldn't want him to be out of his depth here. Chris narrowed his eyes slightly, but he remained calm. No need for that. I'm quite familiar with luxury, thank you. Shane smirked, stepping closer to Sarah. See, Sarah? This is what real power looks like. Not everyone can handle the world of high-end business. Can you? Sarah's expression hardened as she stood up, her patience wearing thin. Power is hardly about belittling others, Shane. Just as the tension in the office reached a palpable level, the door swung open, and in walked Vicky, Sarah's vivacious friend from college. Her entrance was like a burst of sunlight, oblivious to the storm, clouds already gathering in the room. Sarah, there you are. And oh, is this the famous Shane Howell? Vicky's eyes lit up as she took in Shane's polished appearance. Hi, Vicky. Yep, this is Shane. Shane stood up, offering his most charming smile. Pleased to meet you. Sarah has told me so much about you. No, I haven't. Sarah thought to herself. Vicky, unaware of the undercurrents, beamed. Wow, Shane. I've heard about your big moves at Mercedes-Benz. It's not every day you meet someone so successful and handsome. Chris shifted uncomfortably, feeling increasingly out of place. Shane seized the opportunity and turned to Chris with a smirk. Yeah,
Takes years of hard work and smart decisions to get to where I am. Something not everyone can appreciate.
Vicky turned her attention to Sarah. So, Sarah, when are you going to get your discount on one of these fancy cars? Or is there a special employee discount for being in a fling with Mr. Big Shot here?
Sarah's cheeks flushed with embarrassment.
Vicky, it's not like that. Shane and I are just... Oh, come on. Don't be shy. He's a catch.
Vicky nudged Sarah, winking mischievously. Chris, who had been quietly observing the exchange, finally spoke up. His voice was calm but firm, cutting through the awkward laughter. Looks can be deceiving, Vicky, and not everyone's worth is determined by their bank account or job title. Vicky nudged the conversation towards a more teasing tone.
So, Chris, let me guess. Knowing you, you probably followed Sarah here to ask for some money for a new car, yeah?
Her laughter rang in the air. Chris couldn't help but find the suggestion amusing. With a light chuckle, he brushed off the accusation. Vicky, you give me too much credit. I'm just here for a car, not a financial rescue. Vicky's words were laced with mock sympathy.
Poor Sarah, having her life hindered by you for 2 whole years. How do you manage?
Shane gestured toward the door. It's time for you to leave, Chris. You're clearly out of your element here. Chris was unfazed and locked eyes with Shane. Be careful. You might regret your actions, Shane. You never know how closely our paths might cross. Small world, after all.
Sarah sensed the escalating tension and abruptly stood up. I need to leave. I have another appointment. Outside the dealership, Sarah quickly caught up with Chris, her expression earnest. I only met Shane because of our mutual business interest with Kid LaCruz. It's nothing personal. Before Chris could respond, Sarah's phone rang with an urgent call from work. She glanced at the screen, her face reflecting the seriousness of the call. I'm sorry, but I have to take this. Chris, I'll see you at home. She gave him a quick peck, climbed into her car, and drove away. Chris stood there for a moment, watching her leave. Back inside the Mercedes-Benz store, Shane reveled in the aftermath of his encounter with Chris. Turning his attention to Vicky, he offered her a charming smile and the kind of preferential treatment reserved for VIPs, determined to showcase his influence and status. Picked by, Shane periodically glanced at the entrance, expecting the arrival of the global entertainment representative. The staff, sensing his anticipation, gathered around, ready to spring into action at any moment. However, as time passed without any apparent sign of the Shane's confidence began to waver. He frowned and pulled out his phone to dial Monica, the assistant he scheduled the meeting with. Monica, this is Shane Howe at the Mercedes-Benz store. We've been waiting for your representative, but they haven't arrived yet. Is there a delay? Monica's voice came through the phone, tinged with confusion. Mr. Howell, our representative was there. He told me he just left. Shane's eyes widened in realization. The pieces of the puzzle clicked into place. Could it have been Chris? The thought sent a wave of panic through him. Quickly regaining his composure, Shane turned to the staff, his voice urgent. The representative from Global Entertainment was here already. He might be the man who was here earlier, on the electric bike. We need to bring him back immediately. The staff exchanged looks of confusion and disbelief. The idea that the guy in jeans and a t-shirt was the representative that they have been anxiously waiting for seemed far-fetched. Shane paced back and forth. He pointed to Danielle, a beautiful saleswoman. You, go track him down, now. But sir, are you sure? He didn't seem like... I'm certain. Find him and bring him back. This is a crucial opportunity for us. Outside the Mercedes-Benz showroom, Chris stood casually at the nearby taco truck, enjoying a simple lunch. As he took a bite, Danielle approached him. Mr. Young, I'm Danielle from the Mercedes-Benz dealership. I'm so sorry for how we treated you earlier. It was a misunderstanding, and I truly regret it. Chris looked up, his expression one of mild surprise. It's all right, Danielle. What's done is done. Danielle's eyes conveyed her desperation. Please, Mr. Young, would you give us another chance? I assure you, you won't be disappointed this time. I'll personally see to it that your experience is up to our standard. Chris paused, considering her words. He could sense the genuine remorse in her voice and the importance of this request to her. Okay, Danielle. I'll come back with you. But let's keep things professional. He offered a reassuring smile that eased some of her concern. Back at the dealership, Chris, unfazed, handed Shane a document. I believe this will need your attention? Shane's eyes widened as he read through the contract.
I'm sorry. I didn't realize. Please, let me make it right.
His voice trembled slightly, the realization of his mistake sinking in. In Shane's office, the atmosphere was tense as Shane reviewed the contract.
I'll sign this now, and our legal team will review it promptly.
His hand was unsteady as he signed. Chris watched, his expression unreadable. Make sure everything's in order. I expect professionalism. Realizing the depth of his error, Shane sought to make amends.
Chris, as a gesture of our sincere apology, please choose any car from our showroom. On the house.
Chris's gaze swept across the showroom, finally resting on a luxurious Mercedes-Benz S-Class. He pointed.
That one.
Shane's face betrayed a mix of regret and respect.
Oh, that one?
Chris smirked. Or can you not afford it, Mr. Big Shot? Shane's face was a canvas of conflicting emotions as he eyed S-Class Chris had pointed out.
Well, that one is a tad bit expensive, Chris.
He ventured cautiously, hoping to steer Chris towards a less extravagant choice. Chris turned to face Shane, a hint of challenge in his tone. Ah, so what you're saying is, you can't afford it. Shane felt a lump form in his throat. His pride was battling with the reality of the situation.
Of course we can afford it, Chris. You want it? It's yours, no question about it.
He then turned to Danielle, who had observed the exchange anxiously.
Danielle, draw up the paperwork for Mr. Young. Make sure everything is in order. He's not leaving this building until the keys to that car are in his hands.
Danielle nodded, her movements swift as she went to prepare the necessary documents, her mind racing with the implications of this transaction. The air in the showroom was electric, the balance of power visibly shifting as Shane acquiesced to Chris's choice, a decision that was as much about respect as it was about business. Chris, behind the wheel of his new, felt a sense of accomplishment. The car, a testament to his resilience, moved gracefully along the road, heading towards a home that held both conflict and comfort. He clicked the call button on the vehicle's expensive steering wheel. Call Sarah. A dulcet voice answered his request. Calling Sarah. Sarah picked up the phone. Chris? Hey, I'm headed home, and I've got a little surprise. See you there? Sarah smiled. Surprise? Okay then, see you here. Inside, Eleanor Smithson sat in her usual poised manner, her eyes sharp and discerning. Upon seeing Sarah's excitement, she couldn't help but interject with her usual icy tone. Sarah, you do remember we discussed reconsidering your relationship with Chris, don't you? Sarah, full of newfound resolve, stood her ground. Mom, Chris is showing real commitment to his work now. I believe in giving him a chance. Eleanor's response was a cool, measured dismissal.
I failed to see the appeal, Sarah, but it's your life.
She left the room with a swish of her skirt, but someone pulling their car into the driveway caught her attention. It was Chris. Chris stepped out of his sleek ride and entered his home to find both Eleanor and Sarah admiring his new car. So, what do you think? Sarah was momentarily taken aback by the luxury vehicle. Chris, what? Chris shrugged. It's just a company perk. Nothing to worry about. Eleanor raised an eyebrow. Quite the statement for a company car, isn't it? Chris smirked. I can afford it anyway. But better if it's free, right? Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm tired and a nap is in my future. Later in the solitude of the guest bathroom, Eleanor dialed Shane Howell's number. Her voice was as smooth as silk but as cold as ice. Shane, I trust you haven't given up on Sarah. A man of your stature surely wouldn't let an opportunity slip. After the situation with Oliver turned ugly, Eleanor was already looking for new suitors for Sarah. Shane's voice, hesitant yet firm, came through the phone. Eleanor, I've thought it over. I don't think Sarah and I are the right match. Eleanor paused, her strategy crumbling. Well, this is unexpected, Shane. I went through all the trouble to connect your company with her. Are you quite sure? Yes, Eleanor. It's best for all involved. And please don't bring it up again. I'll probably have to buy Chris another car if you do. The call dropped, and Eleanor stared at the phone in anger. That little. How dare he? Just then, Lily, Sarah's best friend, hesitantly stepped through the front door, her heart racing with a mixture of anticipation and apprehension. She hadn't seen Chris since Madame Smithson's birthday. The memory of that night at the Muse Bar, where she had inadvertently learned of Chris's true identity and his influential background, still lingered in her mind, casting a shadow over her visit. Sarah greeted Lily with a warm embrace. Lily, I've missed you. Why have you been avoiding me? Lily managed a nervous smile. It's just been busy, you know? At that statement, Eleanor, overhearing the conversation, rushed out of the bathroom and shouted up the stairs. Chris, come down and greet Lily. She's been such a stranger lately. As Chris descended the stairs, Lily's eyes widened in surprise, her anxiety spiking. She fidgeted with her purse, her nervousness palpable. Eleanor, misinterpreting Lily's discomfort, whispered to Chris, Offer her some tea, you. Chris, sensing Lily's unease, offered politely, Would you like some tea, Lily? No, thank you. I'm fine, really. Lily glanced at the clock, her decision made. Actually, I should probably get going. It's getting late. She stood up abruptly. Eleanor stood as well. Why don't you have Chris drive you home? It's no trouble at all. He's got a new fancy car to do it in, too. Lily fidgeted with the contents of her purse. No, really. I'll just call a taxi. Chris, aware of the awkwardness but wanting to ease the situation, spoke up. It's no problem, Lily. I insist. Let me drive you home. As long as that's cool with you, Sarah? Sarah flinched ever so slightly. My best friend and husband alone in a car? But she plastered on a smile. Sure. Enjoy the drive. The drive through the city was quiet at first. The hum of the Mercedes-Benz escorting Chris and Lily. Chris glanced over at Lily and decided to lighten the mood. Remember that night at the Muse Bar? You looked like you'd seen a ghost when you found out who I was. A playful smirk covered his face. Lily was caught off guard by his remark and let out a nervous laugh. Yeah, that was unexpected. You really know how to make an impression, Chris. As they approached the bustling main street in the city's downtown, the luxurious car didn't go unnoticed. Heads turned and whispers followed as they stopped at a traffic light. It was then that they spotted Sarah's cousin, James Smithson, on the sidewalk. James, spotting them, approached with a sneer. Look at you, Chris. Riding around in fancy cars now? Living it up with all that new money, huh? Chris's grip on the steering wheel tightened, his jaw clenching at the words. Without my family, you'd be nowhere. Have nothing. Just a kept man, aren't you? A small crowd began to gather, drawn by the spectacle. Among them, a local woman chimed in, her voice loud and scornful. What a bum! Just like my ex-husband. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. Lily steered in anger and embarrassment. Chris maintained his composure despite the insults. Finally, he spoke up. Keep talking, James. You won't fight me like a real man, I can assure you that. Lily suddenly unbuckled her safety belt. With a determined look, she stepped out, her eyes fixed on James. James's mouth twisted into a sneer, but before he could utter a word, Lily's hand struck his face with a resounding slap. What the hell was that for, Lily? Who do you think you are? Chris deserves your respect. Hell, he deserves all of our respect. You want to talk about a... Take a look in the mirror, you joke. With those words, Lily turned on her heel and walked towards her apartment building, leaving a speechless James behind. Chris was equally surprised. Lily had never defended him like that before. James recovered from the shock and turned his anger back towards Chris. You're with Sarah's best friend, aren't you? And misappropriating company funds for this fancy car. James, your imagination is as wild as your lack of manners. Good night. He then accelerated away, leaving James fuming on the sidewalk. his threats of revenge dissipating into the night air like smoke. As Chris drove off, the night enveloped the car, and the city lights blurred past him. Global Entertainment was bustling with activity when Chris exited the elevator on the 20th floor. Monica, always efficient and on top of things, greeted him with a list of his pending engagements. You got a busy day ahead. Lunch at 1 p.m., a call from Elon to return, and Jeff is still wondering whether or not you're going to attend his gala. Tell him I'm busy. Send him flowers or something from me. Sure. And also, this came for you. Monica handed him a mysterious envelope. It's from Zachary Quinn. She raised a curious eyebrow. Chris, intrigued by the unexpected correspondence, requested privacy. Monica, could you give me the room, please? Of course, Chris. Once alone, Chris carefully opened the envelope. Inside, he found a card with a cryptic message. For the hard times. He flipped the card. Don't ask questions, just take it. Intrigued and slightly apprehensive, Chris found a small tin can inside the padded envelope. He opened it to reveal a single black pill. For a moment, he hesitated. What the hell is Zachary Quinn doing sending me pills in the mail? But driven by a mix of curiosity and trust in Zachary Quinn, he consumed it. Almost instantly, Chris felt an incredible rush. The world around him seemed to burst into vibrant color, his senses heightened to an extraordinary level. He could hear the rhythmic beating of his own heart. It was strange and exhilarating. This is amazing. I feel alive. I feel like King Kong. I'm king of the world. I gotta get my hands on more of these ASAP. Just then, a sudden wave of fatigue washed over him. His head spun and the room began to tilt. Just as he realized something was amiss, his legs gave way, and he collapsed to the floor. Hearing the commotion, Monica rushed into Chris's office, her eyes widening in alarm at the sight of him unconscious. Chris! Monica burst into Chris's office at Global Entertainment, heart pounding. The sight of Chris lying unconscious on the floor was alarming. She grabbed a nearby glass of ice water and splashed it onto his face. Eyelids fluttering, Chris slowly gained consciousness and met Monica's anxious gaze. He sat up. Confusion etched on his face. Monica exhaled a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Her relief was quickly replaced by concern. Chris, what happened? Her voice trembled slightly, underlining her worry. Do you have any health conditions I should know about? As his assistant, her role was to anticipate and manage emergencies. Chris managed a weak smile, trying to appear reassured. Thank you, Monica. I'm okay, just a bit dazed. Maybe I just need some more water. He reached for the glass, attempting to ease her concern. In his mind, questions swirled. Why would Zachary Quinn send me a mysterious black pill? And why was I so foolish to take it? Despite his outward calm, the puzzlement and a sense of foreboding lingered. Monica glanced at the phone on Chris's desk, a flicker of hesitation in her eyes. You have a call from Sofia Diaz. Her tone shifted to a professional neutrality. Chris straightened in his chair, regaining a semblance of composure. Patch her through, please. He waited, clearing his throat before the call connected. Good afternoon, Sophia. Chris greeted her with polite curiosity, his mind still partly clouded by the earlier events. Sophia's voice, bright and eager, came through the line. Chris, I was hoping to photograph that small toy you gave Madam Smithson. I believe it was hand-carved by Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Chris's eyebrows rose in surprise. The toy was a mere trinket in his mind, its significance overshadowed by the day's peculiar events. That's an interesting request, Sophia. What sparked your interest in having it photographed? Sophia's enthusiasm was palpable even through the phone. It's for a special display at our family's antique store, Diaz Diamonds and Art. Would you mind bringing it over? I'd love to take a picture of the artifact. Chris paused, recalling the hurried departure of Madam Smithson, the toy left behind in the chaos. Of course, I'll bring it. See you soon, Sophia. Arriving at Diaz Diamonds and Art, Chris stepped into a world of antiques and treasures. The store, an elegant blend of history and artistry, welcomed him with its unique charm. Sophia, standing amidst a collection of vintage jewelry and rare artifacts, greeted him with a warmth that made Chris feel instantly at ease. As she clicked away, capturing the item from various angles, Chris looked around the store. The Diaz family had clearly invested immense effort in maintaining the elegance and sophistication of Diaz diamonds and art. The array of artifacts and antiques spoke of a deep respect for history and a keen eye for beauty. Their session was interrupted by an employee, a young man who approached with a mix of excitement and caution. Sophia, there's someone here you might want to meet. Frederick Zippo. He's got an ancient jade artifact he wants to sell. Sophia's interest piqued immediately. Jade from ancient China? She set her camera aside and moved towards the front of the store where Frederick stood, a nervous anticipation in his stance. Frederick presented the jade piece, its green hues deep and mesmerizing. Sophia, enraptured by its beauty and apparent historical significance, examined it closely. This is extraordinary. How much are you asking for it? Frederick's voice held a hint of uncertainty, masked by bravado. 3 million. It's a rare piece from a significant historical era. Chris, observing quietly, felt a stir of skepticism. His experience with artifacts had honed his ability to discern genuine pieces from fakes. This jade doesn't seem right, but it's not my place to say anything. He remained silent, watching the transaction unfold. The store's quiet ambiance was broken by the entrance of Kelly Dunn, a sophisticated middle-aged woman whose interest was immediately drawn to the jade piece. Overhearing the conversation, she interjected smoothly. 3 million. I'll offer 5. Sophia and Frederick turned towards Kelly, both surprised and intrigued by her sudden entry into the negotiation. The air in the room shifted, charged with the tension of a deal teetering on the edge of extraordinary. Sophia, caught in the whirlwind of the sudden bidding war, felt a surge of anxiety. Her connection to the jade, initially professional curiosity, had deepened in the face of losing it. She stepped forward, her voice firm yet tinged with a plea. I must insist on purchasing the jade. We had already begun negotiations, and there's a principle of first come, first served in business. Frederick Zippo, the seller, hesitated, torn between the allure of a higher offer and the appeal to his sense of fairness. After a moment of contemplation, his expression softened. You're right, Sophia. I'll honor our original deal. 3 million it is. Chris, who had been observing the interaction with a growing sense of unease, leaned closer to Sophia. In a low whisper meant only for her, he cautioned. I believe the jade is a fake. Sophia glanced at Chris, her brows knitting in disbelief. I appreciate your concern, Chris, but I trust my judgment. This piece is genuine. Undeterred, Chris discreetly pulled out his phone, drafting a quick message to the captain of the Los Angeles Criminal Investigation Team. His fingers moved swiftly over the screen, his intent clear. He was determined to expose the scam, regardless of Sophia's belief in the artifact's authenticity. He slipped the phone back into his pocket, a silent promise to ensure justice and truth prevailed in this high-stakes transaction. The atmosphere in Diaz Diamonds and Art shifted palpably as Chris's assertion about the jade's authenticity resonated through the room, which Frederick overheard. Frederick Zippo and Kelly, the would-be buyer, exchanged startled glances, their confident facades crumbling under scrutiny. Frederick's response was swift and defensive. I should call the police on you for these baseless accusations. This is defamation. His voice was laced with indignation, but a hint of panic flickered in his eyes. Chris remained calm, his experience with artifacts lending him a quiet confidence. Look at the stone closely. This is a new jade, not ancient. It has impurities that wouldn't be present in a piece from ancient times. Its real value is only a few $1,000s, far from the millions being quoted. Sophia, who had been captivated by the jade's allure, now looked at the piece with a dawning realization. The features Chris pointed out became unmistakably clear to her trained eye. The revelation left her speechless, her previous certainty dissolving into a mix of embarrassment and shock. The room fell into a tense silence, the truth of Chris's words hanging heavily in the air. The intricate web of deception spun around the jade artifact, was unraveling rapidly, exposing the scam for what it truly was. Sophia's hands trembled slightly as she picked up a magnifying glass and scrutinized the jade once more. As she peered through the lenses, the impurities Chris had mentioned became glaringly evident. The realization that she had almost fallen for a scam hit her hard, and a mix of relief and frustration washed over her. Frederick Zippo sensed that his scheme was falling apart and made a desperate attempt to escape. Grabbing Kelly's arm, he hurried towards the exit, only to be stopped in his tracks by a bulky security guard who had been alerted by the commotion. Moments later, the store was filled with the sound of police sirens. Captain Ross of the Los Angeles Criminal Investigation Team, alerted by Chris's earlier message, arrived with his team. They swiftly apprehended Frederick and Kelly and revealed their identities as wanted criminals with a history of conducting similar antique scams. Sophia, still processing the turn of events, turned to Chris with a look of deep gratitude. Your insight saved us from a huge mistake. The Los Angeles Citizens Bureau had a reward for such contributions. You deserve it. Chris, however, shook his head modestly. There's no need for a reward. Helping out in a situation like this is just part of being a responsible citizen. His refusal was firm, underscored by a sense of civic duty and humility. All right, you two, get! The police escorted Frederick and Kelly away, their scheme thwarted by the combined efforts of Chris's keen observation and Sophia's willingness to reconsider her initial judgment. In the aftermath of the day's dramatic events, Sophia looked at Chris with a newfound appreciation. The chaos that unfolded in her store had been a humbling experience, and she acknowledged her initial skepticism towards Chris. Chris noted her sincerity. Sophia, I'm just glad I could help. Sophia's expression shifted from gratitude to determination. Chris, you've shown incredible insight today. I realize now how valuable your expertise could be. Would you consider being a consultant for Diaz Diamonds and Art? Her voice held an earnest plea, a stark contrast to her earlier confidence. Chris, taken aback by the offer, raised his eyebrows in surprise. A consultant? Yeah, your knowledge in artifacts and antiques is impressive. I'm offering a substantial monthly stipend for your expertise. We could really use someone like you on our team. Chris contemplated the offer, the weight of her words not lost on him. After all, Sophia was a highly respected figure in the Los Angeles high society, and her endorsement could open unforeseen doors. Sophia's office, brimming with the artifacts and elegance of Diaz Diamonds and Art, served as a backdrop to her earnest conversation with Chris. Her offer for him to become a consultant, accompanied by a generous monthly stipend, hung in the air between them. After a moment of consideration, Chris extended his hand. All right, Sophia, I'll do it. His voice carried a hint of reluctance, yet a decision resonated in his firm handshake. Sophia's smile, wide and genuine, illuminated her face. Her gratitude was as palpable as the handshake that sealed their agreement. Back at Global Entertainment, Monica approached Chris, excitement evident in her brisk steps. Chris, you've got to see this. Kid LaCruz is about to perform on the reality show. It's about to start. Chris, intrigued by Monica's enthusiasm, watched as the television screen lit up with the vibrant stage of the reality show. Kid LaCruz, Global Entertainment's rising star, was in the spotlight, her presence commanding the stage. Monica leaned closer to the screen, her eyes sparkling with excitement as Kid LaCruz took the stage. She couldn't help but join in, her voice harmonizing with the melody, echoing Kid LaCruz's every word. Isn't she amazing, Chris? Just listen to that voice. The performance, a vibrant display of talent and charisma, had everyone in the room captivated. Kid LaCruz's energy was infectious, her voice soaring effortlessly through the high notes. But then a jarring moment broke the spell. Kid LaCruz's smooth flow faltered. Her hand reached up to her headphones, a frown creasing her brow. Something's wrong with the audio. Monica's singing trailed off, her concern mirrored on her face. Chris, did you see that? Is her mic acting up? The camera zoomed in on Kid LaCruz, capturing her attempt to adjust the malfunctioning equipment. Her professionalism shone through as she tried to keep the performance on track, despite the technical difficulties throwing her off. As Kid LaCruz's voice filled the room, Monica's phone started to vibrate insistently. She glanced down, her fingers quickly swiping across the screen. Her expression transformed from joy to concern in an instant. Chris, noticing the change, turned towards her. "What's wrong, Monica?" She looked up, distress clear in her eyes. "It's social media, Chris. They're saying Kid LaCruz is lip syncing." Her voice was tinged with disbelief, each word heavier than the last. Chris's brows furrowed, a mix of confusion and anger brewing. Lip syncing? That's ridiculous. He leaned in to see the flurry of messages cascading across Monica's screen, the accusations and hashtags multiplying rapidly. On the screen, Kid LaCruz continued, her performance now overshadowed by the growing controversy. Monica's fingers hesitated over the keyboard, uncertainty about how to respond to the online storm evident in her pause. "We need to sort this out, and fast." Chris's face, which had been lit up by the performance, now darkened with anger. He had personally witnessed Kid LaCruz's unfiltered talent and knew the allegations were baseless. "Monica, we need to get to the bottom of this. Investigate the matter. I want answers." Monica nodded, determination setting into her features as she agreed to investigate. She hesitated for a moment, a thought crossing her mind. "Chris, there's something else. This might be an internal issue, possibly linked to the Smithson family." Chris, his focus sharpened by her words, paused briefly. "The Smithsons? What would they have to do with this?" At the soundstage, the recording was in full swing. Chris arrived, his stride purposeful and unwavering as he bypassed the surprised security personnel. "Hey, you! Stop!" Chris didn't slow down. He was set on uncovering the truth behind the technical glitch. Backstage, the crew members were bustling around, caught up in the aftermath of Kid LaCruz's performance. Chris approached them, his presence commanding immediate attention. "Tell me what happened with Kid LaCruz's audio." The crew members exchanged nervous glances, the seriousness of the situation dawning on them. After a moment of hesitation, one of them stepped forward. "It was an honest mistake, sir. We assure you it won't happen again." Chris scrutinized them, his gaze stern yet relieved to hear it wasn't a deliberate act of sabotage. "Make sure it doesn't. Kid LaCruz's career could have been jeopardized today." Chris's phone rang, slicing through the tense atmosphere backstage. He answered, already knowing who it was by the caller ID, Eleanor. Chris braced himself. Eleanor's voice came through, sharp and disapproving. "Chris, where are you? You're needed at home. This situation is more serious than you realize." Chris walked through the bustling backstage area. "Eleanor, I'm actually with Kid LaCruz right now, managing this mess." Eleanor was quick to respond, her tone demanding. "Well, once you're done, come to the Smithson family manor. We need to discuss this." Chris ended the call, a sense of urgency propelling him forward. He made his way to Kid LaCruz's dressing room, where the young artist sat, her posture reflecting her distress. Kid LaCruz looked up as Chris entered. "Chris, I feel like this is partly my fault. I usually do a mic check myself at every venue. This time I didn't." Chris stood firmly in front of her, his demeanor reassuring. "This isn't on you. It was a technical error, nothing more." He then began to outline a clear, concise plan. "Here's what we'll do. We address the situation with the media and set the record straight. We'll ensure this doesn't affect your success. Trust me." Kid LaCruz nodded, drawing strength from Chris's confident plan. "You're my guy, Chris. Of course I trust you." Her expression shifted from worry to determination, ready to face the challenge head-on with Chris's guidance. The grandeur of the Smithson family manor did little to ease the tension that hung in the air as Chris arrived. The voices of the Smithson family echoed through the opulent halls, their tones thick with discontent. Inside, James Smithson stood, his accusation directed at Sarah. "Your error could jeopardize our relationship with Global Entertainment. Do you realize the magnitude of your mistake?" Sarah, visibly shaken by the accusation, looked desperately towards Madam Smithson, silently pleading for guidance and support in navigating this accusation. As Chris entered the room, he was immediately struck by the atmosphere of anger and dissatisfaction. Without hesitation, he stepped forward in Sarah's defense, Sarah had nothing to do with the mishap at Kid LaCruz's performance. His firm voice cut through the heated discussion. The room fell silent for a moment, all eyes turning to Chris. The air shifted as the Smithson family's scrutiny fell upon him, several voices coming at once. And who are you to speak on this matter? You have no right to voice opinions here. The words echoed the family's collective skepticism towards Chris's involvement. Despite the harsh criticism, Chris stood his ground. Let's not rush to conclusions. Chris cut through the heated murmurs. Blaming Sarah outright is unfair. What if this was sabotage? We need a thorough investigation. Madame Smithson, her presence commanding the room, fixed her gaze on Chris. Sarah will be relieved of her duties. It's decided. She left no room for debate. Chris retorted back. But that's just it. We're missing the bigger picture. The earpiece malfunction at Kid LaCruz's performance could have happened to anyone. Sarah is not at all at fault. James faced Chris with a scowl. You dare challenge our decision? Your audacity knows no bounds. The room buzzed with the family's indignation. The collective disapproval aimed squarely at Chris. He stood alone, a solitary figure of dissent against the backdrop of the Smithson family's unified front. The doors to the Smithson family manor's grand hall swung open abruptly, and in walked Kid LaCruz. Her presence as unexpected as it was striking. A hush fell over the room, every pair of eyes turning towards her. Madame Smithson, momentarily taken aback, quickly regained her composure. Miss LaCruz, what a surprise. Welcome. Sarah, standing a little off to the side, opened her mouth, ready to utter an apology. But Kid LaCruz raised a hand, halting her mid-sentence. Before anyone says another word, I want to make it clear that Sarah is not responsible for what happened during my performance. A murmur rippled through the Smithson family, their expressions a mix of shock and confusion. Chris seized the moment. Thank you. We need to consider the possibility of internal sabotage. Someone here might be involved. All eyes then followed Kid LaCruz's gaze as it settled on James. The room's atmosphere thickened with tension. James was at the pre-production meeting. I saw him being buddy-buddy with some of the crew members. The accusation hung in the air, heavy with implication. The Smithson family members exchanged glances, the suspicion and unease palpable. James's face, now the center of scrutiny, betrayed a flicker of concern. James, now the focal point of everyone's attention, tried to muster a defense. This is preposterous. I would never do such a thing. His attempt to deflect, however, crumbled as 3 crew members from the reality show entered the room. One of the crew members stepped forward, a folder in hand. We have proof. He opened the folder to reveal documents and screenshots of bank transactions. These show money transfers from James to us explicitly for sabotaging Kid LaCruz's performance. The revelation hit the room like a thunderclap. Whispers echoed through the hall as the Smithson family members absorbed the gravity of the evidence presented. Madame Smithson, her face a portrait of disbelief, slowly took the folder. As she scanned the documents, her expression shifted from denial to reluctant acceptance. She looked up at James, her favorite grandson. Her eyes filled with a mixture of sorrow and betrayal.
James, how could you?
James, now exposed and concerned, had no further defenses to offer. The evidence was irrefutable, and the family's shock was matched only by their disappointment in one of their own. Madame Smithson's face was etched with disappointment.
James, you will have no involvement in the company's affairs for the next 6 months.
At this juncture, Kid LaCruz stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. I have a condition for continuing my collaboration with your company. Madame Smithson, though still reeling from the shock, nodded for her to continue. I want Sarah to be in charge of my packaging and promotion exclusively. No interference from anyone else. Kid LaCruz's demand was clear, her tone suggesting no room for negotiation. Madame Smithson, after a moment's hesitation, agreed. Very well. It shall be as you wish. Sarah, overwhelmed by the sudden turn of events, found herself in a pivotal role, her career given an unexpected but significant boost. The other Smithson family members exchanged looks of envy and confusion. They were baffled by Kid LaCruz's insistence on Sarah's involvement, unable to comprehend the swift change in fortune. As Kid LaCruz prepared to leave, she turned to Chris, a smile playing on her lips. "Thanks for everything, big bro." With those parting words, she exited the manor. After Kid LaCruz's impactful visit, Chris turned to face the Smithson family, his expression one of undisguised disdain. "Your actions today, and your rush to judgment, have shown a remarkable short-sightedness. You should all be ashamed." Without waiting for a response, he turned on his heel and strode out of the Smithson family manor. The tide had turned, and Chris now had an upper hand. Outside the family manor, Sarah caught up with Chris, a mix of emotions playing across her face. "Chris, did you know all along? How are you connected to Kid LaCruz?" Her voice carried a tinge of something more than curiosity, a hint of jealousy, perhaps. Chris, catching the undertone in her question, smiled playfully. "Jealous, Sarah?" Sarah felt a blush creep onto her cheeks. Just then, Chris received a text from Sophia Diaz. "Come by the gallery. There's something you need to see." Back at Diaz Diamonds and Art, a crowd was drawn by the allure of a potentially rare find. They had congregated around a porcelain vase adorned with a delicate blue flower drawing. Jacob Jones, the current holder of the vase, stood among them, his expression a mix of hope and uncertainty. Sophia Diaz, standing beside the porcelain vase, engaged with the crowd, her voice reflecting her deep knowledge of antiques. "Notice the intricacy of the blue flower design. It's quite unique." Even her grandfather, Don Diaz, was there. He examined the vase with a critical eye.
Yes, but the style, it doesn't quite match the period it's supposed to be from.
Jacob, holding the vase, looked from Sophia to Don, a hint of worry creeping into his voice. "So what are you saying? Is it not as old as I thought?" Sophia exchanged a glance with her grandfather, a silent communication passing between them.
It's challenging. The design elements suggest one era, but the craftsmanship points to another.
As Chris made his way into the store, he immediately noticed the tense hush that had fallen over the crowd. He caught sight of Jacob, clutching the vase with tentative hands, his eyes darting around the room. Don Diaz set the vase down gently, his final word carrying an air of mystery.
In all my years, it's rare to find a piece that's so hard to categorize. This might as well be a modern creation masquerading as an antique artifact.
Chris thought to himself then, a little unusual for Don Diaz with his wealth of knowledge and experience, not to provide a definitive appraisal. Sophia, her brows furrowed in puzzlement, turned to her grandfather. "But if it's a modern artifact, the craftsmanship is exceptional. It's perplexing." Don Diaz simply shrugged.
Sometimes the most intriguing pieces are those that defy easy classification.
Jacob Jones, seizing the moment, spoke up with a challenging tone. "Could it be that the company's expertise is being overestimated here? Maybe you're not the experts I assumed you were." Chris raised his hand. "I'd like to have a look at that vase, if I may." This intervention caught the crowd off guard. Skeptical glances were exchanged and whispers filled the room. "What does he know about antiques?"
He's no Don Diaz.
"Isn't that the global entertainment guy?" Don Diaz, his curiosity piqued by the commotion, peered at Chris.
And who might you be? I don't believe we've met."
Sophia stepped in, her voice carrying a blend of pride and assurance. "This is Chris, Dad. He is the consultant I recently brought on board." Murmurs swept through the crowd, the surprise evident.
Our consultant? Him?
Despite the doubtful whispers and raised eyebrows, Chris moved towards the vase with a composed air. His approach to the porcelain piece drew a collective breath from the onlookers, their anticipation mixed with doubt. As Chris examined the vase, the room fell into a tense silence, everyone's attention fixed on him. The moment was ripe with possibility. The crowd unsure but eager to hear what this new, unexpected consultant had to say. Chris gently tapped the porcelain vase, listening intently to the sound it produced. He then turned the vase upside down, examining its base. Ah, see here? This residue is a hallmark of certain ancient Greek techniques. The crowd leaned in, their earlier mockery giving way to curiosity. This vase is a Greek amphora, possibly from the Neolithic period. Jacob Jones, seizing the moment, declared his price. Given this appraisal, I'm asking for $100,000 for this vase. The onlookers exchanged glances and chuckles. Sophia's expression, a mix of embarrassment and frustration, mirrored the doubt in the room. Don Diaz turned to Sophia with a gentle but firm reprimand as he glanced at Chris. Sophia, are you sure about this guy? I'll need a brush, gloves, and a file knife. Sophia hesitated, but sent an employee to grab what he needed. Others shook their heads, scoffing at the unconventional method, but Chris took the tools and immediately began to grind the bottom of the vase. Chris continued with steady hands, his focus unwavering. Gradually, under his careful work, a seal began to emerge, hidden beneath the layers. The room fell silent as Chris, with a final gentle brush, cleared away the last of the debris, revealing the seal in its entirety. He turned the vase around for Don Diaz and the crowd to see. See that there? That's proof of my theory. The revelation of the vermilion seal struck the room like a thunderbolt. Faces that held smirks and skepticism moments ago now registered shock and awe. It's an undeniable marker of authenticity. Chris looked closely at the vase's design and structure. This isn't just any vase. It's, as I said, a Greek amphora from the Neolithic period. His declaration resounded through the crowd, turning their disbelief into astonishment. Wow, Chris, I'm shocked. Sophia's eyes widened. That's amazing. Despite the celebratory atmosphere that quickly enveloped Diaz Diamonds and art, Chris excused himself from the ensuing festivities. His interest lay elsewhere, specifically with Jacob Jones, the man who had brought in the vase. But he was nowhere to be found. Chris's instinct immediately went on high alert, and he exited briskly, much to everyone's confusion. On the street, he just caught Jacob entering a van. His eyes narrowed. I have to follow him. As Chris tailed the van carrying Jacob Jones, his mind raced with possibilities. The van, nondescript and unassuming, blended into the city traffic. But Jacob's hurried departure from Diaz Diamonds and Art had triggered Chris's curiosity. What's he hiding? Chris wondered to himself. His hands gripping the steering wheel, eyes fixed on the van weaving through the streets. The van stopped at several different locations in the city, all of them residences. Chris made sure to park at least a block away so that he wouldn't be found out. At each stop, the van picked up a new, shady-looking individual. Chris arched a brow. They're all wearing black from head to toe, and they all come out carrying giant duffel bags. The van eventually picked up what would be the last member of what seemed to be a team on the outskirts of the city, before pulling out onto the highway. Chris had been following them for hours. Where are they going? He checked his phone. He had a million notifications, emails, texts, and missed calls that he would have to attend to later. One message stood out in particular, a voicemail from Sophia. He played it. Hey, Chris, I noticed you left in a hurry. Is everything okay? Just wanted to thank you once again for the help today. You're quite extraordinary, you know that? My grandfather was particularly impressed, and trust me when I say he's hard to impress. Anyway, let me know when you get this message. Let's get dinner soon. Chris smiled weakly to himself. He wanted to tell Sophia what he was doing, but knew that he couldn't until he had definitive answers. I'll never forgive myself if I don't find out what they're up to. The transition from the bustling cityscape to the serpentine mountain roads heightened Chris's sense of intrigue. He followed at a safe distance, careful not to draw attention, yet close enough to keep the van in sight, which proved difficult, considering the fact that the number of cars on these roads dwindled the further they went. Chris shook his head, trying to stay awake. We must be getting close to their destination. The mountains loomed ahead, their rugged beauty a stark contrast to the urbanity they left behind. His headlights shone a sign: Lone Pine Mountain. Chris's thoughts were a whirlwind of speculation. This remote part of the country was known to be an area rife with illegal activity. It was an area too remote and too vast for the police to canvass. Could Jacob be involved in something illicit? Is the vase more than just a rare antique? He pondered the possibilities, each more intriguing and convoluted than the last. The van's steady climb up the mountain road seemed to mirror the rising tension within Chris. He knew the importance of remaining undetected, using the bends in the road and the natural foliage for cover. Gotta stay back. Can't risk losing him now. Not when I'm this close. As they ascended, the road became less traveled, the signs of civilization fading within each mile. The view from what was almost the top of Lone Pine Mountain was magnificent. The glittering lights of Los Angeles twinkled in the distance. He checked his phone once more. No service. Shoot! If I discover something up here, or God forbid something happens to me, it'll be difficult to get help. Despite his ever-growing worry, he continued on. It was in his nature to finish something he started. The van's deliberate pace suggested familiarity, a regular journey to a known destination. Chris's curiosity deepened. Where the hell are you going, Jacob? What's waiting for you up here?
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.
Pocket FM. To unlock all the episodes, click the link in bio.